What is up, you gorgeous, fabulous creatures, and welcome to another episode of F the Scale podcast. You're here with Kylie Pax, Australia's emotional eating coach. We are at episode number 78 today. Very, very excited. Every week I'm thinking, oh my God, we're getting closer to 100. What am I going to do when we hit 100? I'm definitely going to do some kind of prize or giveaway. If you have any suggestions or things that you might like, but honey, please, besides Tinkerbell coming, dinging you on the head, hobbits dancing around your bed and you're magically skinny, and believe me, if I could deliver that shit to you, I would wrap it in a bow and deliver it overnight express. But we cannot because it's not a thing. So what I thought I would do, anyway, what I was saying, I digress. If you have any suggestions, things that you would love to see coming up, prizes, giveaways, anything that you want to see coming up on the podcast, send me a message over on social or leave a comment over on YouTube. I will happily come and play with you in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's juicy little episode. I was driving around today, running some errands and thinking, what am I going to discuss with you on this week's podcast? What has been the most common questions and the themes that have been coming through? And motivation, let's just take a moment. Motivation is always right up there with shit we deal with when trying to lose weight, because the weight loss isn't hard. And like I always say, a trained monkey can lose weight. Anybody can lose weight. It's the motivation and the inspiration and the dedication to keep going on the journey once we start it that screws us over every single time. So I thought, what I'll do today in our episode is I'll share a little bit more about my journey, my struggles, what I went through, and how I overcame each and every one of them to finally lose the 20 kilos. I'll give you some honest updates on where I am right now with my weight loss journey and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I want you to really be able to tune in. The whole point of this is for you to really be able to understand and get how you can also tap into your inner motivational diva and just fucking put this thing behind us once and for all. Now, when I say putting this behind us, what I mean is this weight loss issue. And if you haven't skipped on over yet, kyliepax.com/free course, that's where you're going to find my free weight loss course, a 4-part video series that is still yet to hit the internet radio waves. There's now another little, it's just a pathway issue. If you're not running a business or you're not running an online business, certainly when I talk about pathways and things, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but it's behind the scenes. It's basically the behind the scenes framework. I'm waiting for our tech guy, who's a little slow off the mark, to just wrap that up for me so that we can launch that out to the world. And as I say for the last few weeks, if you want to be the first to know when this does hit the world by storm, when this takes the world by storm in the next week, then you want to skip on over right now, kyliepax.com/free course. I will put the link below in the description box and you can jump on the list there so that you can be the first to know and get your greedy little mitts on it. Now, I'll start today's episode, or maybe I should say before I dive into today's episode, as you listen to this episode and any others, please do take a screenshot and share it on your socials so that tag me, so that I can also share it as well, because I love seeing you get the value and what you need out of this. And as you know, as you hear me say all the time, when you give yourself permission to step up and be all that you can be, then you give another woman permission to do the same. So let's start today's episode by taking a journey back in fucking time. Way back, when I was probably, I don't know, my parents had me, I wasn't probably even walking yet. Let's just say I was 1, or I don't know when you walk. I don't have children, so I can't remember. I don't know. Let's say I was maybe 2 years old or something like that. I reckon I was about 1. And my parents gave me something they thought I might like to try to eat, this meat pie. It's a Balfour's thing. I think it's just South Australian, actually. I don't even think it's Australian. I think it's just South Australian. And they gave me this meat pie to see if I would, their first little child, their baby daughter, is she going to like this? Is she going to enjoy it? And what actually happened, befuddled them, because they regaled the story to all their friends and entertained them with it for years, was that I scoffed this whole entire meat pie down like in no time at all. I had a hearty appetite from the moment I came trotting on out of the womb. And food fast became my comfort in so many areas of my life. Now, I will say when I was sort of under 10 years old, for sure under 10. Every, festive occasion, my parents would have a little party and all the rellies and friends would come over. And what that meant for me, was that the chocolates and the sweets, because I've always been a sweet girl, the chocolates and the sweets that would normally be completely off limits for me, my mum had them tucked away in a cupboard and they weren't just for everyday access. Now, did this have something to do with my obsession with sweets later on? Because food was not restricted in our house. Food wasn't restricted, obviously, right? We all grew up big and strong. But sweets and what we would now call junk food was certainly just not on offer for you to grab anytime you pleased. We had to get authorization from my mother, and it really wasn't given out freely. We got to perhaps enjoy it maybe once a week at her discretion. So there was that sort of allure of the forbidden fruit, so to speak, that I always had when I was growing up. But when my parents had these parties and all the chocolates and the sweets and the things would come out, I would stuff my face like some crazy ass ferret until I was physically sick. I just won't be any more descriptive than that. I'll just say physically sick. And at one time I was physically sick on my poor dad. Like I remember crawling up in his lap and saying, Dad, I don't feel well. Next minute, he had full evidence of how unwell I actually felt. And it was purely because I was stuffing my face like unbelievably with large amounts of the food that I felt was off limits and forbidden, and oh my God, it's here and nobody's monitoring me or watching me. I can have as much as I want. So I always had this sort of mini love affair / obsession with junk food. And as I moved into my young adult years, so let's just say now 10 to 12 years old and then above, I was doing some calisthenics at the time when I was around 12 years old. My parents had enrolled me in this thing, like, I don't know, it was hideous, right? But I was there and I had to go to this thing every Monday night and I was committed. I did this for years and years. I did it with some little girlfriends and I'm sure I thought it was quite jolly at the time, but I was never really into it because I've never really been into physical activity in my life. I'm quite lazy at heart. Like I'm not that person that loves to be active and loves to go outside and play and do all the things. And Phil, my partner, oh my God, sport is his life. He's a full-grown adult and he plays different sports, not just one. He plays multiple sports, multiple days a week. The man is always being active and he loves it. Like it's in his genes. He can't get enough of it. But you had to drag me kicking and screaming to do this sort of shit. They tried to enroll me in some gymnastics and I just wasn't having a bar of that. I lasted maybe 3 weeks there, but they had me in calisthenics for years. And I remember some of the other girls that were in my, grade, that we were getting ready to do our concert performance at the end of the year. And one of them saying, well, I need to lose sort of 3 kilos or something by this time. Mind you, we are little girls, around 11, 12 years old. And she said, well, I need to lose 3 kilos or 4 kilos by the time of this concert. And she said to her sister, she said, oh, that's easy. I just won't eat for a couple of days. And I thought, oh my God, I want to lose 3 or 4 kilos. Like, is this how it's done? And this was my sort of gateway information into the dieting world. Now, mind you, and I'm quite certain that every single one of us listening could attest and say the same thing. If you look back on yourself as a child of that age, I'm talking young teens and then your teenage years, you thought you were really fat. Like I thought, oh my God, I'm so obese, I'm ugly. I used to walk around. I mean, thankfully for me, at this time it was the 80s. So big baggy clothes were in, huge big parachute pants, MC Hammer pants were all the rage, big oversized t-shirts like the Wham! Choose Life t-shirts were in. I could get around in big sloppy clothes and look extremely fashionable. That was all the rage. But with the big hair, let's not forget the big hair people and the blue eyeshadow. But underneath all of that, my food obsession was still raging. So whilst I was disguising myself under like Boy George sort of outfits, I was simultaneously stuffing my fucking face with McDonald's, Hungry Jack's. I was obsessed. Like fillet of fish burger was my jam. I was never really into red meat. So I was not a huge Whopper or Big Mac girl. I know probably some of you are just like, that's the best thing in the world. I'm sure it is. I mean, I ate it when I was even younger, but it was never really, I'm a more plant-based. I've always just been, I don't know, more pulled in that direction. It's just what I prefer. So I was always going down the chicken or fillet of fish route. And I loved them. I was fucking obsessed with fillet of fish. Like, I reckon if you gave me one today, I'd scarf it down in like absolutely no time. And it would have been easily 15 years since I've had one. I don't think about them. I don't crave them. But if you plonked one down in front of me, I reckon I'd enjoy it. So I was getting bigger whilst fashion started shrinking again as we headed into the 90s. And now it wasn't the big oversized Boy George, Karma Chameleon, MC Hammer, like all of that started to fade away, take their little bedazzled shirts and like wander off into the sunset. And the 90s hit, whereby our idols changed. We started wearing skinnier clothes, mini skirts, like all this stuff was happening. And I was fucking freaked right out by the body that I had allowed, and I choose that word purposely. I know some of us don't want to hear it, but I had allowed to become what I was now living in. I remember it was around the time of my 21st birthday that I was around the heaviest that I can remember being. And I was using my parents' bathroom scales and I weighed and saw that I was 73 kilos. I think I remember weighing after that and saw I was 75 kilos. And then that was the last time I got on the scale. After that, I refused. Now you might think 75, that's my dream. Like, oh my God, I would die to be 75 kilos. And please keep in mind, it's all relative to your particular height and frame for your body. So I stopped weighing at 75 kilos, which for me was quite heavy. And I reckon I got up to about 80, or at least very close to 80 kilos. Again, please hear me when I say this. For some of you, that might be your ideal weight. Like you would just, like I say, I would give anything to be 80 kilos. That's great because that might be the right maintenance weight for you. But that was at the heavier end of the scale for me. And I wasn't comfortable. I was getting like when your thighs rub together, I was getting the rashes. Like it was horrendous. I was uncomfortable. And because I was so physically uncomfortable, I was turning to food to give myself some pleasure, some comfort, some distraction from the discomfort that I was feeling in my physical body, which of course we know is so fucking ironic and ridiculous because the thing that's causing you the pain is the overeating. So then we turn to more overeating to distract ourselves from the pain that we're in, thereby exacerbating the exact scenario that we're trying to avoid. So here I was now, entering my early 20s, entering the workforce, everything was fantastic, and I kicked it up a fucking notch. I'm like, well, this is bullshit. I've had enough of this. I just trotted myself off to Jenny Craig. Actually, I don't think I ever did Jenny. Weight Watchers. Oh my Lord, what was that? Herbalife, all the little diets in the magazines that were around in the day. There was Dolly Magazine, Cosmo, what else? Cleo, all of those magazines. Like I've said this before, some of them, Family Circle and all those things, have died off. Like long gone, RIP to them. But you've still got your Women's Day and all of the Women's Weekly, all of them. They were fucking around. My mother had them in the house. They were chock full of, you need to look like this rake thin individual here in the 90s. And so off I went on my dieting escapade, looking for self-acceptance and self-love in the size of my body, which we all know because we've all been at different areas of the scale. And we know I didn't love my body anymore when I was 45 kilos than I did when I was 80 kilos. I didn't. In fact, I probably fucking hated it more, which is so tragic, so tragic. This is why I always say, whatever path you walk to reach, whatever method you use to reach your destination is the same method you're going to have to continue to use and live in to stay there. If you diet, restrict, deprive your way down to your fantastic weight loss wonderland, that's great. Good fucking luck to you. But you better be ready because you're going to have to spend the rest of your life in dieting. Well, you would. In dieting hell with restriction and deprivation as your new BFFs. You cannot stay there if you don't continue to do what you did to get there. Please hear me when I say this. You will only stay wherever it is that you get if you continue to do the same things that you did to get there. Now, this works on the positive and the negative. If you reach your ideal weight in a healthy, self-loving, kind, compassionate, non-restrictive way, and you lose your 20, 30, 40 kilos, then you will be able to fucking pat yourself on the back, because you'll be able to live that way in order to maintain what you have achieved. If on the flip side, because honey, everything has a flip side, if you flip that coin over on the other side, and if you lose your 30, 40 kilos via restriction, deprivation, and some fucking hardcore diet, well, like I say, be prepared, because in order to maintain what you've achieved, you will have to continue to do the same thing. We all know this. Prime fucking example, Oprah Winfrey. Who doesn't remember Oprah coming out on her show, wheeling her fucking wheelbarrow of fat behind her when she lost, I don't know, let's say she lost 50 kilos, whatever, 100 pounds, and she's wheeling the wheelbarrow of fat behind her, and the audience is fucking going wild, cheering like crazy animals. Look at Oprah, she's lost all this weight on her fucking Slim Fast. The woman didn't eat food for months. Of course she lost the damn weight. And how long did it stay off? I remember maybe a half a season. Oprah kept that damn weight off before it started creeping back on her body. Why did it creep back? Did the Slim Fast gods turn their back on her and say, well, no more skinniness for you, Miss Winfrey? No. It crept back on her body because she could no longer do the things that she did in order to get what she had got. If she wanted to stay like that tiny little skinny mouse that she became, she would have had to live on Slim Fast the rest of her fucking life. And I'm just saying, please, full disclaimer, there's no shade on Slim Fast. Do your Slim Fast. Enjoy the Slim Fast. I've done it before. We've all done it. But I don't want to live on it. I don't want to live on it. So I was trying all these methods in my early 20s. I then turned around and thought, well, this isn't happening quick enough. It was causing me to start the process now of binging. I thought, well, if I can't have this food Monday to Friday or Monday through Saturday, what I'll do is I'll make a rule, and now on Sundays I can eat anything that I want. Well, I did eat anything that I wanted on Saturdays. I fucking enjoyed it on Sundays, and I enjoyed it. And then what happened was I literally ate so many calories in that one day that I gained back every skerrick of weight that I'd lost in the previous week. Plus its little mates came along and they all had a corroboree together on my ass. I gained weight doing this, but what it did was send me into a cycle now, a downward spiral of deprivation and then binging. And this went on for so many years that I literally, by the time I was in my mid-20s, I didn't know what normal eating was anymore. I had forgotten really by my teenage years. I was unfamiliar with the concept of quote unquote normal eating. It's the paradise, the mecca that we all search for. I just want to eat normally. I just want to be able to have a burger and chips, or fries, I should say, for my US girls. I want to have a burger and fries, and I don't want to A, feel guilty, B, feel scared, or C, put fucking weight on just because I'm eating and enjoying my life. So I'm here in my 20s, and I am a fucking hot mess. My mind was so messed up. I had no concept anymore of what normal eating was. I was binging on the sly. I was stealing food like sweets and junk food out of my mum's pantry and binging on them, and then like trying to replace them before she noticed what was going on. And then of course, when I started working and had my own money, that was literally the beginning of the end for me. Because now I could access any food anytime that I wanted, and there was nobody standing in my way. I remember a period of time when McDonald's had a competition, and you had to go in there, go up to the counter, and you had to recite their latest commercial, which just everybody hold their horses. I think I can even remember. You had to walk up there and say something along the lines of 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Do you see how, do you see how the marketing is so fucked up with these companies? This has got to be like 30 years later. I remember the damn slogan. You had to walk up to the counter, you had to recite it, and they gave you a free Big Mac. Then they had another competition where they had little vouchers and you could get 2 for 1. Well, I would go and get these things and stuff my face on the way home. I had a boyfriend at the time. He was in the radio industry. And I would tell him whilst he was working at night, I said, I'm just going to duck out to Macca's over in the next street. I said, I'm just going to get something to eat. I would get the 2 fucking burgers with the voucher and I would go back and pretend like I'd only had 1. But I was stuffing my face and I was gaining weight so fast. I didn't know what to do about it. So then I thought there's got to be a better way. And a gorgeous girlfriend of mine, she struggled with her weight her whole entire life. And she put me onto some drugs that came from the doctor. When I say drugs, they were prescription drugs that came from the doctor and they were supposed to help you lose weight. They were called Duramine. They actually had, I now know they had speed in them, but I didn't know that at the time. And I went to the doctor and I said whatever bullshit story that I said, and I made them give me these drugs, which I used for a short period of time. They made me so unbelievably sick. I mean, really, really sick, but I wasn't eating. I wasn't hungry because I was on speed. And I'm a real nerd. I come from Nerdtopia. If you looked up nerd on Wikipedia, you would fucking see a picture of me because I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. I don't drink alcohol. I am a true nerd. True. I just need some big, thick, black rimmed glasses and buck teeth. And here I am. Get ready, right? I'm a nerd. And I'm fucking proud of it. I'm sorry. No shade here. I'm proud of my nerdity. It's not nudity, my nerdity. I'm fine with it. And so my body, the reason I tell you this was because my body did not know what to do with something like speed. I had never experienced anything like this before. And I was very, very sick. So thankfully they went by the wayside because another girlfriend who was in my workplace found out what I was doing and made me throw them down the toilet. Thank God. She probably saved my life. But I was so desperate to lose weight. I remember being on these tablets, exercising at the same time, which was specifically told not to do because that could be dangerous. Obviously, you could have a fucking heart attack. I was exercising, could feel my heart palpitations. I thought, what if I drop dead here? But the responding thought that came in my brain was, oh, well, at least I'll die trying to be thin. I was so fucked up in the head. All I cared about was being skinny, losing weight. I didn't care if it killed me to get there. So like most of you, we have yo-yoed our whole entire life. I got married in my mid-20s and I was quite skinny then because I had this goal in my head. I'm like, well, I'm going to get married. I'm going to walk down the aisle. Everyone's going to look at me. And I just ate nothing but grapes for about 6 weeks. Grapes. So I lost a ton of weight. Then, of course, I got married and there was no more incentive to eat the damn grapes because I had got what I wanted. I looked lovely in the dress. It was fantastic, but I was now stuffing my face. I gained a ton of weight then. I probably gained a good 10 or so kilos after I got married and I became quite suicidal. And I don't say that lightly. I remember one night sitting outside in the moonlight. My husband at that time was inside. God knows what he was doing, but I was sitting outside in the moonlight with a knife. And just thinking, so do you slit your wrists or what do you do? How does this actually work? And I sat there for quite some time. It was really quite eerie now that I think about it. It's not quite sane. I remember thinking this, I just don't want to live like this anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying? I didn't want to die. Nobody wants to die. We just want our pain to end. And I didn't know how else to make it happen. So I went through quite a deep state of depression in my 20s, then moving into my 30s and then 40s, I was still up and down with my weight. There was just this constant 5 kilos up, 7 kilos down, 8 kilos up, 4 kilos down. It never really stayed stable until I kind of hit my 40s or into my early 40s. And I finally found a weight that I was happy with. And when I say found, I allowed myself to just start eating. I honestly thought to myself, I've been alive 40 fucking years and I'm still not happy with my weight. I've looked for shortcut after shortcut after shortcut. And all it's done is put me 40 years into my life and still not at the place I want to be. What if I had just done this the right way one time? It only takes doing it the right way one time for you to get everything that you want and have it for the rest of your damn life. And that was when I enrolled myself in nutrition school. I spent a year studying, figuring this shit out. And when I say figuring it out, I learned enough to be able to educate myself in the areas that I felt I was lacking. I wanted more information on nutrition. I'd always been very into that. And it helped me make more stable decisions around what is going to work for me, what isn't going to work for me, what foods do I want to include in my diet, because that also, I will say, did trigger a period of orthorexia. For those of you who are not au fait with orthorexia, that is where you go from one extreme, like, well, I'll just eat all the macas and the fillet of fish and have all the things that I just don't give a shit. You go from that extreme all the way to the other end of the scale, like, oh no, if those goji berries aren't grown by Himalayan monks and sprinkled with pixie dust, I'm not eating them. Oh no, it's got to be organic and farmed by, like I say, like fairies, and if it's not clean, ultra clean, you're not going to put it in your body. So I went through a period of that after nutrition school as well. But I do think these sorts of things are common. Whenever you educate yourself and get more information, you tend to push the boundaries a little bit until you find what works for you. And that's perfectly fine. What I gave myself the permission to do was settle somewhere in the middle. I no longer told myself bullshit stories like, in order to be attractive, you need to weigh X number on the scale. I decided that attractive is whatever the fuck I decide it is. And I decided I was going to be happy with how I look. Hold up, people, hold up. Because now I know you're already saying, but I don't like how I look. Wait a second. I decided I was going to be happy with where I was on the way to where I was going, which was a world apart from hating where I was and trying to get somewhere else. I decided I'm going to be cool with where I am is fine. It's fine. I also have inspiration and ideas and goals and dreams and desires to be further along on my journey, but it doesn't mean that where I am right now is bad. Think about it like this. If you decide you want to get a degree in something and you have to study for a year to get that degree, do you fucking hate where you are and feel like you're a real dumbass and you can't cope with life or anything until you get the degree because you're not fully educated yet? No, we just tell people, well, I'm studying and this is great and how exciting. And at the end of the year, I'm going to be qualified to do this. But with our weight, for some reason, we think it's so different. Well, I'm just ugly and gross and repulsive, and I can't believe that anybody can even bear to look at me the way that I am right now. But you're on your damn journey. You're educating yourself. You're bettering yourself. You're taking the steps day by day to get to where it is that you have decided you want to be in 1 year, 18 months, 6 months' time. Why, when it comes to your weight, is it suddenly bad for you to be where you are? Well, I'm just no good until I finish this weight loss. If that was true, then you should also be, well, I'm just no good until I'm fully educated in this degree, until I understand every last thing on the planet about my job, until I fully get child rearing. I'm just no good. None of those things are true, and you damn well know they're not true. The mindset shift has to happen first and foremost with you. So I started using, in order to finally lose the weight and just then keep it off, I started using what I now call my 5 eating codes, which again, I'm going to say to you, because I would tell them all to you now, and I have gone through them in a previous podcast, which I'm constantly forgetting the number for. So I will say to you, head on over to kyliepax.com/free course. That is where I break down the 5 eating codes for you over a 4-part video series, like in intense detail. You'll get everything that you need there. So I started using these 5 eating codes, and through my experience, trial and error with them, I finally did lose all the weight that I had to lose, and it has never been an issue for me since. Now, with that being said, I will always, like, as I say, I'm going to give you the disclaimers and the this and the that. When we all went through COVID, yes, I gained a little bit of weight because I was fucking bored out of my mind and frustrated, and I did revert to some of my previous habits, but that came off immediately when I went back to using my eating codes. Then, as you people know, because I've bitched about it for months, I had the Marina put in 2 years ago to help with hormones and things as I'm going through perimenopause. And what it actually did, I don't know if it did anything else, but what it did do was make me gain a shit ton of weight. So I reckon I gained about 8 kilos, or what, I'm not super good with the conversion yet, 8, 6, it's probably about 15 pounds or something like that. because of the marina, which I've since had removed. And I am now once again well, I never stopped using the eating codes, but I'm now just turning to my eating codes because I know that allows me to lose the weight without the stress, without the fuss, without the deprivation or any manipulation to my diet or exercise routine. So when it comes to you wanting to stay motivated, and how do I stay motivated? And I just want to get this weight off my body, but I just can't get motivated to do it. Here's what I want to remind you of. Motivation isn't a feeling. This is the biggest problem that we have. We think errantly that motivation is a feeling, and I don't feel motivated. I just don't feel motivated to do this. But if you're sitting waiting around to feel something, you'll be fucking waiting for the rest of your life. Motivation, yes, it comes from a thought, which will trigger a feeling. And that's fantastic. If you can wrangle your thoughts to get yourself motivated and all vibey, and if you can do that, I'm sending you the fucking clapping hand emojis, because I can't always do that. This is real life. We have problems. We have situations. I have somebody in my life right now that's causing me complete hell. And it's a woman, just breaks my heart. She's just so miserable with her own life that she can't, I totally digress. But I was thinking about this morning, and this is so relevant here as well. This particular individual will not take ownership for any of her shit. She won't take ownership for anything in her life. It's all finger pointing, just finger pointing. I'm unhappy because of this, you, and you. All that she does is finger point. And I truly, Phil and I were talking about it this morning, and both simultaneously, without even having this discussion, we looked at each other and I said, we both simultaneously said, I feel so sorry for her. I don't pity her. I just genuinely feel sorry for her, because if she would just take ownership of the position that she is in now, then she's fully empowered to make changes. But what she's so frustrated about is because she still errantly believes that her shitty life is everybody else's fault. And so the demands come thick and fast. I need you to change this, and you to change this, and you should do this, and you should do this. And as long as that goes on, she will stay miserable and bitter for the rest of her life. And that's why I feel so sad for her. But this applies to you too. When you sit around and say things like, if they wouldn't bring that food in the house, if my kids didn't eat in front of me, if my partner would just stop giving me chocolate, if they this, if they that, if you would take full ownership of your situation, you might feel a little fucking more motivated to change it. Motivation, as I said, is not a feeling. Motivation comes from action. And I tell you this because, I've previously said this, that I joined the gym earlier this year. First time in my entire life that I'm actually enjoying the gym, because I researched and found one that I really do like. It's a smaller gym, and there's quite a large, I'm sure there's a large male membership level, but there's a lot of women there. And I will also say there's a lot of elderly men and women there, and I just fucking love it. When I see them come in every day, I just think, you go, sister. There was a woman in there today. She would have to be in her late 60s, maybe 70s, and we smile and we have a little chit chat. But there's also a woman that came in yesterday. That bird has to be in her 90s, and she's getting her ass in there. Now, you can't sit back and tell me that you cannot be fucked or motivated to do anything to change your life, because this woman's in her fucking 90s and she's decided that something has to change. If she can do it and decide something has to change and get her ass to the gym every day, whether she feels like it or not, so can you. It's the action that causes you to feel motivation to continue, not a feeling. My darlings, it is with all the love in the world. I almost feel like I want to cry today. Oh my God, I feel so emotional. It's been a big episode. I've shared a lot with you. It's been quite passionate, but I do bring this to you with a lot of passion because I truly believe it. I don't want women to suffer any more the way that I did and be suicidal over their weight. That is so unacceptable. It boggles my mind that there is an industry out there that has put us in a position where we would even consider ending our lives because of the way we look. What the fuck is that? You have to get yourself fired up. And you do have to get yourself a little angry and a little pissed off and really decide that enough is a fucking enough and it is time for you to change. I'm sending you tremendous amounts of love because, as you hear me say every week, when you step up and decide that you are the one that is in full control of how motivated you feel or don't feel, and that your story will not end the same way that it started, that is when you give another woman permission to do the same. I'm sending you tremendous amounts of love. I will see you next week. Until then, my gorgeous ones, bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to shimmy your butt over to kyliepax.com/free course and sign up for my free weight loss training so you can start losing your weight now. You'll also find helpful notes and resources in my past podcasts that will help you lose your weight without the BS diet drama. I'll see you next week.